Good afternoon and welcome to the Perpetual Resources Investor Webinar. All attendees are in a listen-only mode. If you would like to ask a question to the company, please enter it into the Q&A panel within Zoom. I'll now hand over to Perpetual Resources Executive Chairman, Julian Babarczy. Thank you, Julian.
Thanks very much, Nathan. We're very happy to be presenting the Perpetual Resources story to our investors and other interested parties today. Joined with me today is Allan Stevens, our exploration manager, who's spent considerable amount of time in country in Brazil in the last 6 to 9 months as well. So he'll be guiding you through some of the more project-specific aspects of the presentation. But I'll be here to introduce the company and give some background as well on our overall strategy. So I'll just move to slide 2, which is a standard disclaimer, which I'll leave for you to read in your own time. But really, this is the Perpetual Resources of the now and in the future. We are a Brazil-focused minerals exploration company. So we've focused on some core areas of Brazil, namely the Lithium Valley, which is the preeminent lithium exploration jurisdiction, potentially on the globe, but definitely in South America. We've built a very significant toehold into that jurisdiction with some very recent high-grade results at our Isabella Lithium project, and we're continuing to add areas to that as well. So we've got some very good neighbours, and the reason we chose this jurisdiction was because the geology is so good and because others are having such strong success in the area. Another area we've also gone into is the Caldera Alkaline Complex, which again, our neighbours in that jurisdiction are very high quality companies like Meteoric Resources and Viridis, both of which have amassed some very substantial resource and grades to their projects. So we're following in their footsteps, but again, just a good indication that we've tried to cherry pick the right asset bases in Brazil, and that focus has been on Minas Gerais. So we're very happy to have built those areas. And, interestingly, some neighbours of ours like Latin Resources have been acquired recently by Pilbara Minerals, which just shines a light again on the prospectivity of this area. We're very focused on driving good shareholder returns for the company. And after really amalgamating this land holding, we're very active on the ground. So with the Isabella Lithium project, as you would have seen, we've announced some very significant rock chips from surface and also underground in the artisanal workings that Allan will talk a little more about later in the presentation. We'll continue to refine those targets with a view to drilling the Isabella Lithium project in the first half of 2025. So not far away now, and we're already substantially underway with permitting and approvals for those drill locations. So again, very excited to be undertaking our first lithium exploration drill program in the first half of next year. With regard to the Raptor Rare Earth project, we moved much quicker on the drilling program there, and that's due to the access and also the shallow depths that we required to drill in the initial phase. But we've completed that with very, very strong results, very high grades and very good NdPr ratios. So we're, again, very encouraged by what we're seeing at the Raptor project. We're undertaking metallurgical program at the moment to prove that it is an ionic clay absorption project. And then we'll look to do subsequent follow-up deeper drilling programs on that also in the first half of next calendar year. So again, a very active period upcoming for the company. Just stepping back to why Brazil, we could have taken this company into a number of different jurisdictions after reviewing a substantial number of potential projects. We chose Brazil because of its proximity to one of the largest markets in the world for critical minerals, which is the USA. It's on the doorstep of the US. The US has very limited domestic supply of a range of critical minerals, and we're aware of very strong ties between the Brazilian and US governments and potential funding coming out of the US for projects such as ours. So we think we're ideally located. Brazil has a very unique supply chain location in terms of its ability to supply product into the USA. And so we expect that relationship to unfold over a period of time, like some of the peers we've got in some of our jurisdictions have signed agreements with US companies and the US government to advance their projects. At Perpetual, we do pride ourselves on staying very agile and lean as an organisation. We think as a small company, you need to get the results on the board first before you layer in significant costs. So what we say to our investors and what we're very true to is that we are a very high impact and low cost organisation. We've picked the eyes out of the geological settings in Brazil and potentially the world, and we bring what we think is a very high quality exploration portfolio to our investors. We're in a very strong jurisdiction for mining friendly and support from local governments. So again, the ease of doing work in this jurisdiction won't be a problem for us, we don't believe. Our valuation, we believe, is compelling compared to a lot of our peers in the jurisdictions in which we've built significant positions. Being an Australian company operating in Brazil, it is very important that you build very strong in-country ties. And the whole executive team, particularly Allan, who'll speak to you shortly, he spent a lot of time assessing and selecting the in-country team that we use, and we're only growing that team. We've got very good relationships with our landowners as well. So local community is very supportive, and overall a very lean operation, and we move forward trying to build a lot of shareholder wealth for our investors. Corporate snapshot, I won't dwell too much on here. The main point I will draw your attention to is our share register. Very, very high director ownership, which we think aligns us very strongly with all the shareholders. Myself and Rob Babarczy are the two largest shareholders in the company. Robbie is an executive director and I'm the executive chairman. So again, we've got our money where our mouths are, and also are very aligned with our shareholders. Another notable shareholder is Mr. Tolga Kamova, who has a substantial position in the company and has held that position for a long period of time, and he's been very supportive to us over the course of the journey, including various capital raisings. So we feel like we've got a very strong and aligned register that should do very well for us going forward. In terms of the board of directors, myself and Robert Babarczy, as I explained, are the executives in the firm. Brett Grosvenor is a non-executive director. Brett is ex-Primero. He was a senior executive and one of the founders of Primero Group, and so brings to us a lot of technical experience and operational experience. Nicholas Katris is a company secretary and our CFO, and again is a very experienced CFO and COSEC. Allan Stevens, who'll talk to you shortly, is joined by Rafael Moten in terms of our in-country manager. Rafael's a Brazilian national who works with us on the ground over in Brazil and helps us solve problems and get various local aspects of our organisation underway. We've also assembled what we think is a really highly credible team of specialists in the various commodities. Carl Weber is our rare earth specialist. He's worked across a number of rare earth projects around the world. Vinicus, who is a local geologist based in Brazil, again with very strong lithium experience. And we're lucky enough to also have people like Flavia, who is a consultant to us in Brazil, who's a PhD in pegmatites. So we've assembled, for a very small company, we think a very powerful consultant team who can help us fast track a lot of our projects. So we're very proud of the team we've assembled, and we're looking to add to that over time as well. Now, I won't dwell too much on this summary because Al's going to go into a lot more detail, but as I said before, we've got probably two key planks and a third which we're also developing. The lithium one is probably the highest rank in our portfolio at the moment due to the recent success we've had at Isabella, very high-grade rock chips and a substantial number of artisanal workings that give us a very strong view of the potential scale of that project. In the rare earths side, we've drilled a relatively shallow campaign to prove up the area. All drill holes ended in high-grade mineralization. As I said earlier, very high NdPr ratios, which is the important heavy rare earth oxides, the most valuable ones. And so again, all the hallmarks of a project that could definitely scale with more exploration success. We also have a tin project that Al will talk about briefly as well. So really I'll spend a couple of minutes talking about why Brazil. It's a tier 1 jurisdiction. It's a very proud mining jurisdiction. Lots of government support, stable environment, and really just what we found is a very good place for mining companies to do business. Minas Gerais in particular is the leading resources hub in Brazil. Most of the large mines are in Minas Gerais, which means that there's a very friendly coexistence with the local landowners, with the regulatory regimes in the country, and just with the way of doing business. We found them to be very helpful, noted particularly by the recent cooperation agreement we signed with Investment Us. They're a government-funded arm whose sole charter is to try and speed up investment into the Minas Gerais state. So we've signed a collaboration agreement with them. They'll look to fast-track our approval processes and really just help, again, solve problems as we go through the drilling and project development phase. So it's very good to have very strong support from the local governments. In terms of government investment, there's very strong Brazilian investment in the Minas Gerais region, particularly with regard to critical minerals. So again, the backdrop is that there's a very supportive regime supporting what we do in country. Foreign investment as well is very strong, and people like BYD, Great Wall China, or Great Wall Motors have invested large sums of money into Minas Gerais and surrounding regions, and there's a very strong critical minerals and battery hub being developed. So it's a great jurisdiction in which to have exploration success for critical minerals. In terms of sustainability, 95 or not almost 100% of Minas Gerais' energy comes from renewable sources. So again, wrapping ourselves in the green cloak, a fantastic jurisdiction in which to develop a project with very strong green credentials. So with that brief overview, I'll hand over to Al, who will talk you through the various projects.
Thanks, Julian. Hi, everyone. My name's Allan Stevens. I'm the Exploration Manager for Perpetual Resources. So what I'm going to do here is just quickly run through the projects and I guess a few of the technical aspects of these and why we think they're really great. So Lithium Valley, as it was termed about a year ago, is globally known and respected and home to some of the biggest hard rock lithium mines in South America. And when we entered about 12 months ago, we took a few licenses and now we have about over 5,000 hectares of prospective ground, all within, I guess, a 30-kilometer radius of CBL, Sigma, Atlas Lithium. So the right geological conditions, the fertile granites, the pegmatite intrusions within this area. And I think what's important is when you're looking at kind of projects, we want to know that we're in the right jurisdiction and the right postcode. So if you look at the current slide, we've got some fantastic developers and producers. Sigma Lithium being probably the biggest tier 1 operation within Lithium Valley. So currently it's about 77 million tons at 1.43. And then you've got other established companies and developers in CBL, Atlas, Latin, and obviously they just got bought by Pilbara Minerals. So we've got 2 significant and advanced projects in the region, and basically we've got the Isabella, which is a spodumene and advanced exploration project, and then we've got a Chinga, which is I guess a rare element lithium tin pegmatite opportunity that we've started to really uncover there. So at the Isabella project, this has been a really fast-track thing that we've seen over the last couple of months. Advanced exploration from the point of view that we found over 50 significant artisanal mines and workings within the area, and they've yielded up to over 5% spodumene samples. So I guess the fantastic thing about this is that I guess the dispersion of these artisanal mines are as valuable as a drill hole to actually get inside, understand the geometry, understand the thickness and the depth of these, and of overall what's the scalability and the opportunity around, I guess, unlocking these mineralizations. And we think it's also fantastic from a practicality side of things. You know, it's got accessibility, it's got fantastic infrastructure, we've got nearby resources in established towns. And what the probably most important thing is that we've got some significant explorers and developers next door in Atlas, the Das Neves project, which was just recently mining concession approved. And then we've also got Sigma's São Jose complex as well. So fantastic nearisms, fantastic proof in mineralization, and obviously the practicality for exploration to continue and develop fast. Here's a bit of we're just going to zone in a bit on the exploration side of things that we've seen. So what we've been able to identify in the small period of time is, I guess, 3 trends up to about 1 kilometer in each of them, and then I guess regionally form a trend that kind of extends up to 3 kilometers. Kind of, I guess, trying to understand it as a scale of opportunity. It's largely undeveloped, and I think from a first pass exploration opportunity, we've been able to establish some significant high grade within these trends. So we're seeing up to 5% spodumene in that northern trend, and that extends around to the east. And again, like I said, it forms part of a 3 kilometer trend that we feel like is underexplored and an opportunity to expand out that mineralized footprint at the moment. And I guess just to recap, this image that you're seeing right here is the largely untapped mineralized trend that we're seeing, and we think that from early indications of the geological interpretation that we have potential for parallel stacked pegmatite formations. So the great thing about this is you kind of understand the trends and you start looking outside of these and trying to find linkages in the structures and the geometries. And we think there's a high potential that we're going to find some more opportunities just outside of that. So here's just some pictures from within the field. What we're seeing there is largely some mix of zoned and unzoned style pegmatites. We're seeing like kind of your typical style complex, highly fractionated mineralogy in these. So what we're seeing is minerals like clevelandite, L-bait, which are kind of happen in these like high lithium style mineralizations. And then obviously we've got the spodumene that we've found within the artisanal mines. So the fantastic thing about the extraction from the artisanal mines is it gives us access to get in and see the fresh rock, which largely Brazil is a highly weathered, eroded kind of environment. So this is a fantastic thing to kind of see exploration advance fast. And here we go, just to the right, if you look at the right picture there, that tunnel actually goes into 150 meters into the hard rock. So it just gives you an indication of the scale, and then obviously the exploration opportunity and technical information it provides us to be able to kind of start targeting and start understanding where we're going to put our drill holes in the near future. And then probably just to recap back to the strategic opportunity that exists within the Isabella project. We're located almost walking distance from Atlas Lithium's Das Neves project. Just in October, it was recently approved for an open cut and processing facility. And all indications are that they aim to be producing spodumene concentrate within the early next year. Just next slide if you can. And so with this advanced project, I guess we want to see where this is going to end up, and we're aggressively aiming to put some drill holes in the ground early next year. So we're currently actually embarking on some more field work and sampling. We think there's more opportunity to expand on the mineralized footprint. I think once we understand the assays and the data, that can help us refine and vector in on a lot of those targets. And then as we kind of move forward, there is about putting in the site works, putting in the practicality side of things to drill. And then I think at the end of Q1, we should be ready to drill and hopefully unlock what's at subsurface there. Moving on to the north there. So this was an early project that we took on, a significant land holding near the town near Chinga, so about 2,000 hectares, located also near CBL Sigma, about 15 kilometers to the northwest. And what we've uncovered here is some fantastic results in regards to rare element pegmatites, and obviously some significant indications towards more of an LCT style pegmatite. What we've probably seen most significantly is quite a broad scale and high grade tin. And if we can kind of cast our minds back to Pilgangarra, before it was a lithium producing area, it was actually a tin mine itself. So we think that's fantastic opportunity to, I guess, expand on what those pegmatites are, and find some more opportunities in terms of the lithium there. So we've seen some quite high anomalies in regards to 1,000 to 2,000 LaO2, high rubidium. So we think in regards to the opportunity there, there's still some more work to be done, but we're pretty happy with that as a complementary project to the Isabella. So moving to the south here, so we're almost at the border of Minas Gerais. So as Julian alluded to earlier, we've got a very advanced and high grade rare earths opportunity that we've slowly been ticking away at. So they're currently in getting tested for the ionic capability. So we're just kind of waiting and holding tight on that. So if you're looking at, I guess, the opportunity that exists in the Caldera region, it's home to some of the most significant rare earth developers and producers in the region. So Meteoric being the most significant one, currently stands at about 740 million tons at 2,500 TREO. And if you also got Veritas developing their Colossus deposit, which also looks like another tier 1 rare earth deposit. And early indications from our foothold within the area that we stack up with these other peers within the area. So what we've seen within there, we've seen some fantastic drilling, some shallow drilling, I must admit. And then what's happening with all these is they end in mineralization. They all have fantastic high NdPr ratios, which are what you're looking for in terms of the met, in terms of the processing and the mining aspects of those. So we think that there's more opportunity to unlock that at subsurface and obviously increase that bulk tonnage that would be looking for in a mineral resource. So as we kind of pointed out there, we're seeing NdPr ratios up to 35%, which is in the really, really high grade category. And it's consistent throughout. So it's not just one hole. We're actually seeing that across the whole portfolio that we do have within the Raptor tenements there. So the next steps, as I alluded to there, currently our samples are sitting with ANSTO, who perform the ionic testing. They perform most of them on the significant global rare earth projects. For example, Meteoric and Brutus ran through them. So we're expecting those back in early next year. And then as that kind of forms the basis for our knowledge, we'll be kind of gearing towards doing some more drilling and deeper drilling to, I guess, build up the exploration opportunity that does exist there, and hopefully looking to broaden the mineralized footprint within the area. I might pass this to you, Julian, now, and to speak to the end of it.
No problem. Thanks very much, Allan. Yeah, so we're coming to the end of our presentation, but Perpetual's been very successful at building, very interesting land holdings, which are now, showing very strong and high grade results. So that's part of our DNA, and it's part of what we'll continue to do. We think the current downturn in critical minerals prices is presenting some very interesting opportunities for the company. And I guess part of the reason why we recently raised some capital was to keep our balance sheet nice and strong so that we can respond to potential opportunities. So we'll continue to look at opportunities to bolt on additional ground and land holding. You could expect the focus will be on the existing geological areas that we're already in. And now that we have more substantial footprints, we're getting access to some pretty interesting potential project opportunities. So that one is one that we'd encourage everyone to watch, and we'll hopefully have some news on that in some time in the future. So just in conclusion, we believe we've built a pretty unique and an interesting critical minerals portfolio in some of the best project jurisdictions on the globe. So just to reiterate, we're in the Minas Gerais Lithium Valley. We're also in the Caldera Alkaline Complex, and these are the two highest grade areas for exploration in both of those commodities on the globe at the moment. And we're returning very strong results as well. So again, in terms of being near other existing high quality projects, we tick that box as well. We've got a very experienced board and management team. We stay very nimble, so we don't waste a lot of money. We put our shareholder money to work. We think it's good or better than most listed small cap companies around. We'll continue to do that and watch the bang for the buck that we get over time. And again, we're backed by very experienced investors. Your board has had a lot of experience both investing in and managing critical minerals projects. And again, we've got some very notable critical minerals and broadly small cap resource investors on the register as well. And so, we feel like we're in pretty good hands to take the company forward. So, yeah, look, that's the end of the formal part of the presentation. I might just hand back over to Nathan, who can run the Q&A portion of the presentation for us.
Thanks, Julian. Just a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question to the company, please enter it into the Q&A panel within Zoom. So we've had a few come through. So the first one, how do the early results in Lithium Valley compare to those from nearby spodumene projects?
Thanks, Nathan. I might direct this one to Allan, who is probably better or best suited to answer that question.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Nathan, and thanks for the question. Look, I think it's fantastic in terms of what we've seen in such a short period of time. What you find traditionally within the Lithium Valley and the broader area is that there's not a lot of outcropping opportunities. So there's usually a bit of a lead-in time of doing some preliminary exploration works within the area, usually involved with soil sampling, doing some geophys. But I think the fantastic opportunity, and the reason we jumped at this opportunity, is that I guess from walking around, you can see the spread of artisanal workings that I guess are targeting these pegmatites, and the opportunity for us is that we get to see these subsurface mineralogy within the walk-up targets as such. So we can walk into these artisanal workings and see spodumene and actually understand the opportunity that exists in terms of to develop it and to drill it, etc. So in terms of what we're seeing to our peers next door from an exploration methodology side of things, is we've really fast-tracked it. But I think from more from a values perspective of what we're seeing in the the assays and stuff, it's comparable to neighbors of Atlas. It's comparable to the neighbors of Sigma. What we're seeing is the same mineralogy. So although it's early days, you can see that they're basically parallel analogs that we have right now. So the real kind of carrot for us is to drill this and understand what happens at subsurface. So we think it's a fantastic project, and we think it's got a lot of upside right now.
Thank you. We've had a couple of questions come through on this, so I'll work them in together. So, Julian, you mentioned about potential new opportunities. If you could expand on that a bit more, given the downturn in lithium markets, are you seeing more opportunities to add to the company?
Yeah, Nathan, we've got a very rigorous framework for assessing potential acquisition opportunities. And just for context, we've probably looked at about 50 or 60 different projects over the last 12 to 18 months for the company. So we've said no to virtually all of those. So we've got a very, very strict criteria. It's got to have something that has potential for scale. And importantly, it's got to be at the right price. We're very disciplined on not overpaying for acquisitions, because at the end of the day, what we have to do to acquire is normally issue shares or pay cash, and that equals dilution for shareholders, of which, you know, we are the largest shareholders alongside our smaller shareholders as well. So we're seeing with the downturn, a lot of deals that came to us maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, are coming at a fraction of the price. There's very few points of competition for some of those assets, whereas previously it was very, very competitive. So again, it's a great time, we think, to be buying assets for the next upcycle. In terms of lithium specifically, we're seeing some pretty interesting opportunities in the Lithium Valley. Now that we've got a footprint and a toehold in the area, we've built a lot of relationships, both with local contractors and suppliers, local landowners. Our ability to execute on additional land is much improved. So again, these acquisition opportunities, we think, are presenting themselves at a time when we've got a better bandwidth to be able to assess and deal with them as well. So the focus will always remain critical minerals, most specifically lithium. We're seeing the most opportunity in that in the short term. And as I said, at any one time, we've got a number of these under discussions, but we do have some that are progressing relatively rapidly.
Thank you. We've had a couple of questions come through regarding Brazil, so I'll just ask these now. So in terms of local and regional governments, how supportive are they? And also, what is your in-country experience in Brazil?
Yeah, so I'll answer perhaps the first part of that, and I'll hand over to Al for the second part. But the first part is local and regional governments are very supportive. And that's probably best demonstrated by our signing of a cooperation agreement with Invest Minas and the local government in Minas Gerais. So really, this area is relatively poor in terms of the locals who live there. They're very keen to see a development of their regions, job prospects and prosperity come to their regions. So what we found is there's relatively open arms when we arrive looking for the various different minerals. Minas Gerais also, as I said earlier in the presentation, it houses amongst the largest mines, or many of the largest mines in Brazil. So again, a very pro-mining jurisdiction, very pro-mining legislation. And as a result of that, we've just got a lot of local and regional governments who go through a very thorough process that they need to go through, but they're coming from the point of view where they want to see development of these mineral resources, because it's good for the locals and it's good for the state. And so we don't really have any issues, and we're not seeing any issues pop up with regard to local support. With regard to our Brazilian experience, Al's spending a significant amount of time in Brazil right now as well, but we do have some substantial Brazilian experience in and around both the board and also the consultants that we've managed to draw in to assist us with that. So maybe get Allan just to say a few words on some of the consultants that who've chosen to work with us over other opportunities in some of these jurisdictions.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. And I guess would like to add to what you've said before about, I guess, the supportive communities and supportive regions. So I spent quite a bit of time over the last 14, 15 months working in the Lithium Valley and more kind of precisely within the Jacinto Valley, which is where Adesua is based. And that's I guess it's the epicenter and the support town that operates nearby to all of Sigma, Atlas, and that. And you've got to understand that this area, much like Western Australia, mining is in its DNA. And so there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of community initiative that is generated, I guess, through the nucleus, that is. And ever since we've set foot in this area, we've had nothing but absolute assistance and good relationships from every level, from local farmers to local politicians to Minas Invest. It's an absolute dream place to work, and you can see that there's a huge runway to kind of enable you without any hurdles or nothing that we can kind of unforesee to get these projects to where we want to get them to. So it's a fantastic area to work. Some of the people that we meet are fantastic and really supportive. So you know, from that level, it's fantastic. And I guess, like I said, I've been on the ground for about 14 months now, and developed some really strong relationships with some people within the broader network, whether that be some in-country specialists, which we use as consultants, and then our in-country team, who we now rely and trust to do a lot of the work, everything from the groundwork to the licensing and the government compliance side of things. And we kind of we set about trying to make sure that we had a strong backbone. When you move an exploration opportunity over to a country like Brazil, you have to understand that there's a lot of background work that goes on, and so that was a key thing that we were looking for, and that comes in through from Rafael Morton, who has extensive experience in Brazil, extensive experience in exploration opportunities. But then you fall down the line to someone, one of our team members, Vinicius, who's been with us for about 12 months now. He's one of the guys, the trustworthy guys, that we have absolute confidence in to do everything from manage communities to sampling, to mapping, to interpreting geophysics. And then that also broadens onto pegmatite specialists in Flavia. So it's all about building that strong network that we can kind of help build these projects into a really strong position, and I guess capitalize on the opportunity that is Lithium Valley.
Thank you. Another one come through. It's in relation to your deal with Invest Minas. Can you provide more detail on this deal and how it benefits the company?
Yeah, look, in relatively simple terms, Invest Minas, their whole charter is about trying to make investment in Minas Gerais easier by our external companies. So when we first announced our involvement in Minas Gerais through a project acquisition, we immediately received emails from Invest Minas saying they'd like to meet and discuss what we're up to. We then had a series of meetings where we discussed our plans, what we've got with our existing footprint of assets, and then where we hope to go through over time. As I said, their job is to try and make life easier for companies like ours who are looking to invest money in the area. So what they do is they try to break down some of the barriers that often go with cross-border flows. They try to break down some of the barriers with different languages and the like that we deal with from time to time, and just the different cultural attitudes. So they're there to assist us and facilitate us to get access to all the things that we need to advance our project. That being things like they have introduced us to potential investors. They have introduced us to service providers. They're there just to help us with permits and project approvals as required. So their job is really as a facilitation. And so from our point of view, it's just up to us to call on them as and when we need. They sent a delegation out to Australia about a month or so ago, where we had a range of meetings with them as well. And again, there's various arms to Invest Minas and Minas Gerais regional government in general who are looking to help and support us. And so, yeah, we've just got we're pushing on an open door with regard to how they can assist us. And so it's great to have, friends in the right places who, if we get stuck on any certain aspect of our project development, can sit down and help us unclog any of those cloggages that happen. So, yeah, it's a very constructive relationship.
Thank you. There are no further questions at this time, so I'll now hand back to Julian for closing remarks.
Thanks, Nathan. And look, on behalf of myself and Allan, thank you very much for your time and attention. For those of you shareholders, we thank you very much. And for those that aren't, let us know if there's any other information you need from us. But look, yeah, that's the end of the presentation. So wish you all a happy Christmas and look forward to updating the market over the coming months. Thank you very much.
Thank you.